My name is Britton Pierce, and today we're going to be going over the basics of C programming. The first thing you'll need is software, and if you're a beginner, I recommend starting with Visual Studio. Just look up Visual Studio Download, or go right to the visualstudio.microsoft.com page and download the free Community Edition. Once it's done downloading, just click right here to open the installer. Once the installer is open, you need to go under Workloads and check Desktop Development with C++, then click Install. This may take a while, so give it some time. Once it's installed, create a new project. Select the empty project template, give it a name, and then click Create. Once this window opens, go to Source Files and right-click. Click on Add New Item. Make sure you have C++ file selected and name it whatever you want as long as it ends in .c. It's okay that it says C++. The fact that you changed it to a .c at the end means that it's going to be regular C. Once you're in the file, just copy this bit of code here, and for now we'll be doing everything in this area. You'll understand this code later, but for now I'm going to talk about variables. In C, a variable is like a container that you can give a name to and read or write data from. If you want to create a variable, you just type int and then a name. I'll use x and then follow it with a semicolon. If you want a character, you use char, and if you want a decimal value, you use float. If you want to create a whole bunch of variables all at once, you can use an array by typing brackets after the variable name, and then how many you want inside. This creates 30 integers all under the y name, and you get to each one just by using its index inside the brackets. However, variables are useless if we don't have a way to read or write to them, so next we have to learn about operators. The most basic operation is assignment. You just use an equal sign to put whatever value you want into a variable. Make sure to end the line with a semicolon. You can also use all the basic math operations, like using a plus sign for addition, minus sign for subtraction, a slash for division, and an asterisk for multiplication. There's a special set of operators called the comparison operators, and they're pretty simple to understand if you're familiar with the similar operations that take place in math. The way they work is by looking at the values on the left and right and seeing if the condition they're named after is true. To understand how we can use comparison operators, I'm going to teach you about flow control. The simplest form of flow control is the if statement. It allows us to only execute code if a certain condition is true, and if we want to, we can use the else statement to execute different code if it's not true. To write an if statement in C, you type if and then parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you put what condition you want to test. Then you type curly brackets, and inside the curly brackets, you type what code you want to execute if the statement evaluates as true. To make an else statement, you just go underneath the if statement, type else, then curly brackets, and whatever you put in the curly brackets will only execute if the if statement fails. If we want to reuse a piece of code, then we can use functions. Functions allow us to name a piece of code and then call it whenever we want. We can even give it inputs and take output from it. To make a new function, you first have to go outside of main. You start by specifying its output data type. Then you give it a name, and then parentheses. Any variable you put in the parentheses will be used as input. Then you do curly brackets, and whatever you put in the curly brackets is part of the function. At the bottom, you put a return statement with whatever output value you want the function to give. If you notice that this looks a lot like main, that's because main itself is a function. Main is the function that gets called by the system whenever your program starts. If you want to call a function in your program, then you just type the function name, and then put whatever input value you need into the parentheses, and then end it with a semicolon. The last thing I'm going to explain are pointers, which are a special type of variable that can store the memory address of data. We say that pointers point to data. To make a pointer, you just put the data type of the memory you're pointing to, followed by an asterisk, and then give the pointer a name. You can use the ampersand to get the address of a variable and assign that to the pointer. And if you put an asterisk in front of the pointer name, then it'll act the same as a variable. And that's all I have to explain in this video. If you want to learn more, then check out my Basics of C guide in the description, which goes into more detail on these topics. Good luck programming.